Thermal power stations. I chose thermal power stations for this video because I think they're pretty cool. And hopefully you guys learn more about how they operate. You're going to need a heat source to make heat. And my choice for this video is coal. And I think coal's pretty interesting on how they do it. Because they pulverize the coal and then they burn it, which makes the burning process much easier and makes more heat. Highly pressurized water at about 170 bar, which is 2,500 pounds per square inch, passes through an economizer, which preheats the water from burnt material exiting the boiler, which makes the water easier to turn into steam later on. Then the preheated water goes through a steam drum, which then collects water and steam, but after it's done sitting there for a bit, it then goes down multiple thousands of pipes through the boiler, which makes the water turn into steam. And right about at this diagonal point, this water is basically fully steam. Then the steam drum helps separate the steam from the water. And then the steam then goes to the high pressure turbine through a steam pipe. And the high pressure turbine helps the steam of higher pressures spin the blade much more efficiently. If you want to have more efficient steam, you can use a steam superheater, which superheats the steam, hence the name, and it spins the high pressure turbine much easier. Then if you don't use it or you use it, they still both end up to the low pressure turbine, which helps spin the shaft for the generator, which makes it more efficient, so it's not just the high pressure turbine doing all the work. So they share power, basically. Then after the steam passes through the low pressure turbine, the condenser condenses the steam into water, which then that is the most part where energy is consumed, because it takes a lot of effort to cool water down. So a lot of energy is taken from the power plant in order to cool the water back down, which I think is pretty cool. So the condenser has multiple tiny pipes, then the steam goes on it, then since the steam is very dry, it just re-moisturizes the steam and turns it into water. After the condenser, there's a feed water pump, and the feed water pump is a multi-stage centrifugal pump which uses centrifugal force to increase the pressure, because there's multiple discs inside of it which spin and use centrifugal force to increase the pressure of the water and make it flow more smoothly. And then since the condenser has hot water coming out, it needs to get cooled down. So it can be cooled down using a cooling tower, or if it's close to the sea, it could be used seawater, lake water, or stream water. It's just you just need cold water for the condenser, and clean water too. So even though this cooling tower looks very square, in real life they're much more round. But the cooling tower shown is a natural draft tower, and air naturally enters through the bottom. So right where these black lines are, the air enters through it and then pushes up through the tower, and then it pushes heat from the water because there's a water pool down here, and the hot water, the wind pushes all the heat up through it in the form of steam. And then before it gets down to the waiting pool down here, hot water is then sprayed from sprayers right about here, and then plastic mush basically separates the steam and makes it land all throughout the cooling tower's pond down there. And then the water spends a bit of time in there, and since the wind goes through the bottom, it cools down much faster than just letting it naturally cool down faster instead of just leaving it there. And the cooling tower aids in this, because if you didn't have a cooling tower, the air would just be everywhere and not directly lift up the steam. It would take a while for the water to cool down. But by the cooling tower directing where the air should enter, it helps speed up the cooling process. And then the cool water is then returned to the condenser. And then this is the end. Thank you guys so much for watching. And this is just a brand new video idea, so I don't expect it to do too well, but thank you for watching, and have a good day.